The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Al Horford, Derek White come up big, and I think it's an impressive win. 110-103, the Boston Celtics beat the Denver Nuggets. I think it's an impressive win. Later on, we'll talk about the bench. We'll talk about Jalen and Jason, Luke Cornett. Al and Derek were huge. I'll get to them in a few minutes. I want to start with this is an impressive win. I think the past 2 games have been really good efforts, right? Like they didn't beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. They didn't execute down the stretch. I don't think that was a particularly bad loss or anything like that. And I thought this was a good win. They did not have Kristaps Porzingis. Again, they did not have Drew Holiday again. And in a minute, I'll give you the Drew Holiday injury update. But the Celtics are missing 2 starters. And we do have to adjust our expectations on how they're going to perform over the course of 48 minutes when you're missing one of your 2 starting guards, an all-defensive backcourt player, and your unicorn in Kristaps Porzingis, who's still sick. We know what Kristaps does. Against a team like this, you're protecting the rim. The Celtics started Luke Cornett with Al Horford and went with Jalen, Jason, and Derek White. So they went double big. They maintained double big throughout most of this game. They took away the rim from the Denver Nuggets. They did a great job. The game plan was very clearly to give up 3-pointers to Christian Brown, to Russell Westbrook, and they did that, and it worked basically perfectly. Brown hit one big 3-pointer from the corner late in the game, so that was timely, but he was 2 of 8, and 2 of 8 from 3. Russell Westbrook was also 2 of 8 from 3, so they wanted to give up those shots, and it worked. Now, the Nuggets didn't shoot particularly great from 3 overall, but the Celtics game plan was pack the paint, don't let Jokic kill you, and Jokic had overall numbers, 20 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists is wow, that's generally a pretty good game, but that's not MVP Jokic numbers. So they did a great job limiting him. Even without Porzingis, it would have been great to have Holiday on Jamal Murray, who got going in the 3rd quarter and in the 4th quarter and helped cut a 20-point lead down to as little as 3. Very similar flow to this game where the Celtics went up. It wasn't like the 25-3 opening, but the Celtics did open up a 20-point lead. They did give that up a little bit in the first half. They did push it back out in the beginning of the 3rd quarter and lose almost all of it heading into the 4th. And the difference is that the Nuggets never really never could make a push to take the lead. They got it down to as little as 3. And the Celtics were able to hold them off. But my number one overarching 30,000-foot view is without their starting center, without their starting guard, the Celtics forced to dig deep into their bench, and they gave, Torrey Craig got minutes, Nemish Queta got minutes, and Craig was okay. Queta was pretty good despite some foul trouble. They had to go deep into their bench, guys that probably won't play or at least wouldn't play the minutes that they played in a playoff series. They went up against the number 1 seed in the East and kind of ran out of gas at the end. They went up against a former champion and a team that's competing to try to come out of the West and has a potential MVP, 3-time MVP, million-time MVP, and Jokic. And they're out there holding their own and executing and not giving up the entirety of their lead. That matters to me. And I'm sorry, we have to adjust our expectations a little bit. Any NBA team missing its 2 of their starters, which inherently means 2 of their 5 best players, is going to have pockets of games where they struggle. And still, the Celtics had very correctable things that they could have done. Number one, turnovers. They gave up a ton of turnovers. And what did they have here? It was 14 turnovers for the Celtics. But Denver scored a ton off of those turnovers. And if the Celtics just protected the ball a little bit better, then they wouldn't have given up the lead. If the Celtics had made some shots, and this is, Jalen, let me get to Jalen here real quick with the knee. He was short he was 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter. He was short in all of those. He said his knee's bothering him. Walked into the locker room after the game. He's got a big wrap on his right knee, something that's been bothering him. I think the Celtics should probably rest him a little bit. 2 days off before the next game. So either way, correctable things that don't usually happen under normal circumstances. A couple of those shots fall, you protect the ball a little bit better, and that lead doesn't get as shrunk by, this is horrible English, but doesn't get eaten into as much by the Denver Nuggets. So that's my number one overarching take. Now, no Drew Holiday. Let's finish this segment by just giving you this update. He did speak a little bit before the game. He said, first of all, it's a mallet finger, which it's like a tear, which causes the finger to like drop somehow. It's kind of weird. I try to have the medical staff explain it to me, and it's basically like a tear or a break that just causes the finger to just drop. And you got to keep it in a splint to keep it straight. And Holiday said, I'm going to be in a splint for a minute because you got to keep it as straight for as long as you can. It's going to be treated like a broken finger, and it takes time to heal. It takes a few weeks to heal at the very least. So now the question is, while it's healing, can he play? So I'm not saying he's going to be out for a few weeks, but I don't know how long he's going to be out. No one knows how long he's going to be out right now. Some of it's a pain tolerance thing, and he hasn't even been able to catch a basketball while dealing with this. So there is a period here where he's going to be out. So it's not going to be like, oh, let's see if he plays against Portland. I would be surprised if he does. He might be out for an extended period of time, but there's still no prognosis. There's no official 1 week, 2 days, whatever it is. But he made it seem like it's going to take a little bit of time. It's a little bit up in the air because he has never dealt with something like this before. And it's going to be an ongoing kind of thing where he has to figure out the course of actions. So for now, that's the update, which is kind of like an update, non-update, but it's he spoke. He was talking to the medical staff. He had like a big wrap on the pinky, trying to figure out like, is this the way to go? Is it too sticky on the ball? Would normal athletic tape do the trick? Like they're still figuring out a lot of this. So as he figures this out, we'll see how it goes. So for now, he's going to be out. Expect him to be out for a little while.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Tonight's NBA slate includes two embattled franchises just trying to pick up the pieces after the trade deadline. The Kings and the Mavs face off. The Mavs, slight favorites, laying 1.5, according to FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
They got it from Jalen Brunson. They got it from OG Anunoby. They came through the latest clutch Knicks win. Just they keep coming. 116-112 in overtime over Miami in this one. OG Anunoby just absolutely dominated this game on both ends of the floor. So I want to talk about him. I want to talk about Jalen Brunson, his huge contributions in the second half and overtime. A little bit of an off night for Cat, and the interior defense was not fantastic overall in this one. So talk about that a little bit, plus a bunch more, including another good game for Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson having a couple highlights, lots of good stuff coming up. But also, if today's podcast isn't enough for you, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. All right, let's start getting into this 116-112 win over Miami for the Knicks. I want to just real quick apologize again. My voice is still a little fried. I've been dealt with a cold all weekend that has made my my voice not so great. But I will do my best to keep it under control. I'll maybe I could pretend. I was actually in Miami. I was screaming along with all the Knicks fans that were there and took over the arena there. That's why my voice is so fried. But yeah, this was an interesting game. The Knicks went down 19. They looked very lethargic. The interior defense really was not looking good. The Heat, I think, only missed 2 shots in the paint in the whole first half, and they outscored the Knicks 40-20 in the paint, which is just unacceptable for a Tibbs coach team. I mean, forget about it. Like, you cannot be giving up that many interior points. I get the feeling that he probably was not very happy with them going into the half. It still was not perfect after the half, but they made it look better. I mean, it was just Cat honestly was the one that looked the most lethargic to me. I think that he just sort of set the tone there, where it was a lot of hands down defense. He didn't look very engaged on that end, and not really on the offensive end either. But then you didn't get that huge boost that you might have been expecting from Mitch either. I don't want to get too much into that in the first segment because there's fun things to be talking about, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Just the fact that the interior defense did not look fantastic, but OG Anunoby's defense looked amazing, especially in the second half. Almost by himself, runs the Knicks back on this 13-0 run in the third quarter that brings them within striking distance again. I mean, just his defense was phenomenal. Jalen Brunson scores 26 between the second half and overtime of his 31. So only had 5 points in the first half, gets 26 in the second half and overtime. Just another virtuoso second half and clutch time performance for him. But I also want to comment real quick before I forget, just on how crazy the atmosphere was in this one for technically a road game for the Knicks. I mean, they may as well have been at home in this game. It was kind of crazy, like the amount that the Knicks fans took over, and the poor PA announcer and the people running the technical side of the in-arena experience probably must have been like, oh, what do we even do to shut these guys up, basically. Knicks fans, whenever the Knicks were on defense in the second half, they were chanting defense so loud that it would drown out any attempt at a let's go Heat chant. And then I'm pretty sure, I can't say with 100% certainty, maybe I was just hearing what I wanted to hear, but I'm pretty sure that they even start hijacking those. So when the Heat would be playing the like boom, boom, boom to get people to start going, let's go Heat. I'm pretty sure that Knicks fans co-opted that and turned it into beat the Heat, the classic Knicks chant. I think that was mostly what I was hearing. I was hearing beat the Heat rather than let's go Heat. So that was crazy. And then the amount that they were cheering the Deuce chants, the MVP chants for Jalen Brunson, let's go Knicks chants going, like when they were trying to get defense chants going on the other side. I mean, it was easily the most thorough takeover of a road arena this side of like the Wizards, where they don't get a lot of attendance just because they're really bad right now. But like for a team that's like in the playoff picture, to have this level of takeover, kind of embarrassing. I would be kind of embarrassed if I was a Heat player, to be honest. But yeah, crazy stuff. It makes me, honestly, flights to Miami are pretty cheap. It makes me really tempted to fly down there and experience one of these games one time just for the fun of it, because it really sounded like a home game for the Knicks. And nobody fed off of that, I guess, more than OG Anunoby. Maybe you could say Jalen Brunson, but I think OG deserves the game ball in this one and the first segment shout out. 23 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 9 of 18 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3 for OG. I'm maybe this is going out on a limb. Maybe I'm a little too just remembering that run too much in the third quarter, but I think this is in the running for OG's best game as a Knick. I think it's definitely one of his most impactful during the 13-0 run by the Knicks in the third that got them back in the game. He was just playing some crazy individual defense. I mean, just blowing up everything that the Heat were trying to do. Probably the most impressive is one to me that didn't even show up on the box score, but he had this crazy bit of one-on-one defense with Haywood Highsmith on the sideline where he pinned Highsmith to the sideline. And, normally that just results in like quick timeout or something, or, a player managing to get the ball off to one of his teammates. But OG just used that like all-encompassing wingspan that he had or has to just completely, box Highsmith in on the sideline and eventually managed to reach around and without reaching in, tap the ball, get Highsmith to lose it, and then he lost it off his leg out of bounds. I mean, just a crazy show of defensive acumen from OG there, and just like the perfect marriage of like the physical gifts that he has with the savvy that he has as a defender. I thought that was, and I mean, that was the play that got him the most fired up too. This is probably like the most emotional that I've seen OG like in a game as a Knick. I mean, he got that, and then he said something and then like mean mugged his way right down the other end of the court. Like he was definitely like not trying to hang around there at all, but like was excited to kind of like trash talk, get back on offense. And he was scoring a lot during that run too. I didn't take down exactly how many points he had, but he scored a number of the buckets during that 13-0 run as well. Just a crazy OG sequence. Also had a really key sequence late with a block on Hero. He blocked a Hero 3 late in the game, kind of a Mitch-esque block there right on the perimeter. And that turned into Brunson points. So that was huge. And then also got a tip in with 55 seconds left to get the Knicks within 2. That was the play that Eric Spoelstra in his post-game comments basically said that was the moment that the Heat lost the game, was that tip in, because it was just kind of backbreaking. Like, and OG just had all kinds of backbreaking plays in this game. He was really killing it. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think this arguably, I mean, I know he scored more. I know that he's had more stocks in a game, whatever, but like, I think this was maybe his most impactful game as a Knick. This was maybe the one time in his Knick career so far that I would say like he almost by himself took over a game, and won it for the Knicks. And I mean, that's bold to say considering all the damage that Brunson did, in the second half and then into overtime and late in this game. But I don't think that they're in that position late unless OG goes on that bonkers run in the third quarter, plays that defense, fires this team up, gets everybody going. It was a phenomenal effort from him. So to me, I think he deserves to get the game ball out of this game and all that recognition. Just a phenomenal OG game, phenomenal stretch of OG games. Obviously the game winner the other night as well. Hopefully this continues. Hopefully this is just what the second half is going to look like for him. Because if it is, then, that changes things a lot for the Knicks. I mean, there's been issues with both OG and Mikal with like the ups and the downs of the season so far, and that both of them have shown the ability to really impact things at their best, but really kind of disappear at their worst. And we've seen a number of times where OG has kind of disappeared. Lately, he seems like he's on a different level as far as his like mental commitment to the game, I guess. Not to say that he like wasn't into it before or anything like that, but like he just seems more locked in at this particular moment and more interested in taking over games and having the big moments and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be important for the Knicks going down the stretch of the season, because Brunson can't do it himself. Cat can't do it himself, as we saw in this game. I mean, Cat had, in my opinion, not a great game, even though the stats looked pretty good. So, OG stepping up like this, especially as Mikal is kind of struggling again a little bit, really huge. They need at least one of those two guys to be at a high level all the time. Hopefully both of them, but we'll see how that all goes as the rest of the season goes on.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Tonight's NBA slate includes two embattled franchises just trying to pick up the pieces after the trade deadline. The Kings and the Mavs face off. The Mavs, slight favorites, laying 1.5 according to FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
From Luka Doncic, Lakers 108-102 over the Clippers.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
The home thing, whatever it is, head-to-head, back-to-back games against the Clippers. Not an easy thing to do, to beat a good team twice in a row. The Lakers did it. Luka Doncic gives them 29 points on a night where the Lakers were playing without Austin Reeves and without Rui Hachimura. A big night for Dalton.
And without
Connect.
Jordan Goodwin.
And without Jordan Goodwin, yes. And a big night for Dalton Connect, which we'll get into over the course of this game, of this show. But Andy, if I had said, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, that the Lakers would be starting off March as essentially the 2 seed in the Western Conference, you would have congratulated me on a successful 2K season that I was playing in parallel with the one the Lakers were actually having, because that did not seem like something that was going to actually happen.
Well, I imagine I also would have congratulated you for somehow getting the Dallas Mavericks in 2K to trade you Luka, because all of this just seemed incredibly unlikely. I mean, to be fair to the Lakers, they had been playing pretty well before the Luka deal even happened. They had been playing well despite not having Anthony Davis for that stretch when he was hurt before they eventually traded him for Luka Doncic. Like, things had been looking up for the Lakers. You know, we've framed this often in a 6-week period, because that's often when JJ has talked about when LeBron James, for example, started really picking up his defense, which led to a positive team-wide trickle-down effect that I think has had as much to do with the defensive uptick as DFS's arrival, Jared Vanderbilt's return, Gabe Vincent rounding back into form, Jordan Goodwin down the line. But the thing about adding Luka to this team is he raises the floor and the ceiling. And the floor is what you need when things aren't clicking and you just need to try to find ways to win against all odds or against whatever circumstances. But when things are going well, that ceiling factor that we're now seeing is coming into play, because beating the Clippers by six without 2 starters and a key rotation defensive guard, like, they're just now looking like a team that believes in themselves, that they're outside of the turnovers that we saw tonight. Well, we will get into that. That was sloppiness that even then marks a certain improvement, but just they're in such great sync and they have such great confidence right now. You really start believing a lot is possible with this group.
Well, I mean, first of all, I completely agree with you. But you talk about the improvement as they integrate Luka and learn how to do this. And look, Luka is no question. They said Luka is going to be the center of this offense. We're going to run things through Luka, and they for the most part, we still have LeBron James here. So it's like sometimes like LeBron's going to be doing stuff, but for the most part, Luka's got the ball in his hands. You see LeBron cutting and moving and, giving Luka an outlet, a lot of 2-man game in the fourth quarter sometimes, between those guys. And it's, but this is them learning to play with Luka, learning how to do this. And what I thought was kind of cool about Sunday's game was that it was a 9-assist game from Luka, which like you start to expect, 29 points, 9 of 17 from the floor, 5 of 12 from 3. Like the step back is working and all that's like he's getting the line. Like it looked very much.
He had
like
at least, off the top of my head, he had at least 2-and-1 sequences in this game.
Yeah, it just looked similar to the second half. Like I was excited that on the second half Friday, because he had been generally starting fast, maybe running out of gas a little bit. Second half on Friday was better than the first. He had 10 points in the fourth quarter in the victory Friday against the Clippers, and carried that throughout the game. Still had big moments in the first and second half of this game. But I loved 9 assists from Luka and 9 assists from LeBron. You start to see the scope of the playmaking and the gravity and the problems that, and this is without AR, it makes things even more complicated. The amount of attention that these guys draw is staggering. And Luka is just so good at seeing over a double team, around a triple team and all that, and finding the open man. Like the Lakers were getting tons of, as Dorian Finney-Smith calls them, butt naked. What's the second part? It's butt naked,
wide open looks.
Right. Butt naked, wide open shots. And particularly early, they were making them, and that helped them get out to a nice start. As this offense sort of orients towards Luka, Andy, you're still seeing, it's not like the effect of LeBron disappears. And so, if they can do all this and defend, and again, 102 points, it's starting to become a trend. Teams don't score much more than 100 against the Lakers. There are many reasons to be excited about what is coming up for the rest of the year.
Well, you mentioned that they were able to do this, the type of playmaking and looks that they could generate without having Austin there, because Austin is, he's the third ball handler in this group, but he's still a part of creating offense and part of the advantage that you have when at most times you have at least 2 of the 3 on the court. But they were also doing this without having Rui as a finishing option, whether at the rim or behind the arc. Like Rui is a big part of making the assists happen, because he's somebody that can score in a variety of different ways and somebody that can be set up in all these different places across the court. They still managed to make it happen. And, Luka got the team off to a 13-4 start. There early on, there was a stretch where he had a steal that turned into, I want to say, a Luka step back, but it definitely turned into a basket. He had a hit ahead to LeBron for an easy dunk, and then another step back 3 of his own. And that led to a Clippers timeout and a 13-4 lead, like pretty early on from the jump. And you just see also too, the confidence growing in Luka, that, not that Luka lacks for confidence as a player, but the confidence of, to quote John Wick, I'm back.
Right. Confidence.
Yeah.
Comfort.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Right. Yeah. You can just see it. Like it is when you don't watch a player every day, you don't see, you don't get to see everything that they do. You kind of get the highlights, you get the highlight package, maybe you play fantasy basketball, whatever it is, and when you do get to see it though, we're fortunate. We had seen a lot of Luka, but it's still a different experience when you watch him, whatever it is, 8 games in a row, 9 games. I didn't see every single game. That evolution, and there is truly a belief you can tell from these guys that when they walk out on the floor, because not having LeBron used to give you a certain degree of confidence. Having LeBron and Luka, especially, and they're not putting up gaudy offensive numbers necessarily, but having those guys and knowing what the potential is of an offense that not only features Luka, but has LeBron still there, you can just see the additional, I hate the term, but like the additional swagger that the team walks out on the floor with, and their starting quarters, and there's a good third quarter push to kind of we're I'll say this, and we'll talk about maybe some this week. We're getting into very first world criticisms of a team. Oh, there they go again. Letting a 17-point lead get down to like 10 at the half, as if 10's not a good halftime lead. Like, these are very first world problems that the Lakers are having, and they've come through, Andy, this stretch of challenging games when the only you're trying to do this with a new roster, and they keep winning. The only teams they've lost to are Philly, Utah, and Charlotte.
And we can talk about this a little more after the break. I also want to make sure that we get into Dalton Connect, who had a huge night, and the bench in general, another really strong showing. But 2 of those 3 losses were going into the All-Star break and coming out of the All-Star break, which is often when teams are lacking focus. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just saying it's hardly unheard of to have those type of losses. And it was still at a period where Luka was getting himself back physically, mentally, spiritually after the trades.